Have you been unleashed?
Unleashed.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Horizon Advisors Unleashed podcast. This is your host, Andrew Henricks, joined with my fine partner, Ryan Cuss. What's going on, Ryan?
Not too much.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. It's been a kind of a grind of a week.
It's been a busy
been
week.
Fast. Yeah,
Busy week.
Fast and busy.
Yeah, it's a busy week. Q4 started. That's, typically kind of like the end of maybe a little bit of the slower, peaceful time of summer. In Q3, typically, we're obviously always busy, very thankful to be able to say that. But normally the least busy is Q3 just because of summer. And here in Michigan, people are, going up north, spending a lot of time with family, doing other things, vacations, whatnot. So usually that's kind of the slower, and then Q4, Q1, and Q2 are big because of end of the year stuff, and then tax season starts to kick off in the beginning of the year. So,
people want to try to hit their goals for the year.
They do.
All in 2 months.
Even though we try to be proactive, we preach that all the time. It does end up being a lot of sometimes scrambling some things, but it is what it is. It's it's why we're here. Yeah. So no problems, but yeah, it's definitely picking up. For me, it's also the kickoff like for hunting season. So I do take a little bit of time off to try to get in the woods. So then my weeks here get a little more packed because I got to make sure I get everything in that is a physical in-person thing. I need to make sure I get those things done. So it's been busy.
Then we got a great, exciting weekend ahead of us.
We do. Tomorrow, Ryan and I leave for Dallas, Texas, to go to the Lions, Detroit Lions versus the Dallas Cowboys game, the revenge game from last year when the Cowboys, I think, stole it from us with a fraudulent call at the end of the game. But can't do the hat.
Dallas is Americans' team, right?
Yeah, well,
they get the call.
Apparently,
America's team.
Can't count the chickens before they hatch. Need to go and win. Hopefully this podcast ages well and the Lions end up winning. We won't be able to air this until well after that fact. So hopefully by that time we're listening, they win. We will see, but we'll be there. We're meeting up with some friends and some other partners and whatnot down there, so it'll be exciting. I haven't been to Dallas in a little while. I have been to the AT&T Stadium before, a couple times actually, but it's been maybe 4 or 5 years at least. So excited to go down there and see some people that I know down there. It's going to be fun. Hopefully they get a win.
Yeah, I've never really been there for pleasure, just business. So I'm excited to just, check it out and spend a little time relaxing there.
Everything's bigger in Texas. That's the truth.
I did set us a dinner on Saturday at the Soe Cowboy.
The Cowboy. All right.
Do some sushi.
Ooh, nice.
Sake.
I like both of those things. Sushi is very, very good. Excited. Yeah, it's and Saturday's a big also. Can't shade. Hopefully again this ages well. Saturday when we're there, the Tigers will be playing in their matchup, the do or die matchup. They're tied 2-2 with the Guardians of Cleveland in the baseball. That they had a nice run, a magical run. Hopefully they can get it done. We'll be down there watching that game. And there's some big football. Texas is playing Oklahoma.
Rutgers, big game.
Yeah, I don't know about that as much, but Texas, Oklahoma, will be in Texas for that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Longhorn fans. Maybe we'll see McConaughey. Never know. Ohio State, Oregon, which is I think a 2 versus 3 or 2 for 4 matchup. So we're gonna have an exciting time. It's gonna be good. Looking forward to it. But back to the topic at hand, which is, I will say, an interesting one. It is actually a question that does get brought up in a lot of client meetings, I will say. And it's not necessarily like a financial analysis type of question or item. It's more conceptual, I think, but it does relate to finance and budget and spending. We call it being on the payroll, but it has to do with kids and helping kids out financially. And when do you cut them off? If you cut them off, should you cut them off? And seeing people sometimes struggle through that, maybe they even burden themselves financially to do that or hinder their retirement potentially to do that. Like they end up working longer than they should or have to because they're paying for school. Maybe the kid is not going to school and staying at home, and now you got another mouth to feed for 5 more years, things of that nature. And it all kind of started this idea. We do have this conversation a lot, but it kind of sparked it. We were on LinkedIn and, we saw this post about 50 Cent, the rapper. This is kind of going back a year or two ago now when it actually happened, but someone, posted about it more recently. And, not to get too deep into the details because obviously there's probably a lot of stuff going on. But essentially it was about the fact that his son was kind of chirping on social media, Instagram, other places about like how the child support that 50 Cent was paying, his mother and the son wasn't enough and that you can't live off it and all these. And it just kind of went to a back and forth, eventually getting to numbers where like 6,800. I saw two that said one guy said 20 or 10,800 a month, but then I saw he actually said 6,800. It doesn't matter about the facts. The point is that he was basically complaining, saying it's not enough. 50 Cent's coming back and saying basically, he's entitled. He never amounted to, he thinks just because he's 50 Cent's son, and he kind of, blames himself for some of that, the success and all the stuff that he had in his life and kind of failing him in a way. But also it's kind of like the entitlement. He doesn't have a job. He's not doing anything. And he's just,
he's
getting
an adult.
This. Yeah, he's 27.
He's not some young,
no, not anymore,
5-year-old kid.
No.
That needs the support.
Well, that was the first thing too. They're talking about child support, and 50 Cent's kind of like, you should not be talking about child support. You're not a child anymore. You're 26, 27, whatever age he was at this time, but he's an adult. So anyway, it's going back and forth and not siding on who's right or wrong. Again, there's probably a lot of details in there that I have no idea about, but it just kind of sparked again that conversation of like some of that entitlement maybe side, if that is true, versus whether or not you should be helping maybe a kid that it isn't entitled or really does want to succeed and is trying, but maybe hasn't got their feet on the ground yet fully. And do you continue to do that financially? Do you continue to help? That's kind of the conversation today.
Is your helping really helping?
That's the question. It's a great question to ask. So to kind of, I guess, kick off the brief conversation on this topic. I mean, how do you feel about this? I mean, I guess maybe relate to a little bit of how what you received, if anything, growing up, right? And then, now that you're here and maybe like your plans. I mean, you have kids that are getting older. What are your thoughts on this? I mean,
yeah, it is a difficult one.
Yeah.
And I think it's really family specific and even kid specific. But me, I didn't really get a whole lot growing up. My family didn't have a lot. So for me, when I wanted to go get something, I got a job and I just started working. If I wanted a TV, a bike, whatever, candy, so I started working at a very young age. In 3rd grade, I had a paper out. And I look back and I say, if my parents would have just bought me everything, would I still have the work ethic I do today? Or was it part of me having to go out there and grind at a young age that kind of taught me those disciplines? I'll never know.
Yeah.
I'll never know that answer. But at the same time, while I was working to get those things, I was spending that time working when I could have been maybe spending more time trying to get better grades or, playing more sports, doing other, extracurricular, so where would have that brought me? That's a tough one. I know what I'm doing for my kids. I hope it works out because I'm doing my best to help them save early and give them as good of a life as I can. I feel like I don't really care about the money as much. So just kind of sharing it and cross my fingers and hopefully it works out.
Yeah. It like you said, it's certainly a tough conversation. It's sometimes, to be honest, it's sometimes hard for me to, advise on for kind of 2 reasons. Number one, I'm not a parent yet, right? So I don't have that perspective. So I can't really talk as if I do because I don't. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, again, just kind of full. So I grew up a little bit differently than Ryan. I was, blessed with a very fortunate position, and my way. If you've talked to me before and you've heard me kind of tell this story, not getting into it in too much detail, but I was very fortunate to have great parents who instilled, the discipline and motivation in me, even though I was, given a lot for the average person, well above that, and I was kind of showed the success, and basically it was, hey, if you want this, we're going to share. We love you. We're going to share with you while you're here. But if you want to continue this lifestyle or whatever you think you have, the only way you're going to continue it is if you continue it. It's not going to be us. And so that's why, fortunately, I took that as motivation, and I kind of had that. And wanted that. So I saw what it took to get there. And so I wanted that, and I continued to do that. Yes, I certainly received some help, like in the beginning stages of my career. I stayed at home, and they helped me out by, I didn't have to pay rent because they let me stay at home with them. And so, yeah, I was paying for some things here and there, but, for the most part here and there, they could get some food, and I would use their food, eat their food, stuff like that. And, so I did get that. So there, I guess in a way, in a little bit of a way, I can be maybe a little bit of a story of the success on the side of, okay, if you do help out your kid and you do give them this, as long as you feel like they have that drive and they're trying to get better, maybe that's a good investment, or it's warranted in that degree.
Yeah, I think each parent will teach their kid, how to have discipline. Hopefully they're getting taught, how to be disciplined, how to work hard. You can be taught that in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be, financially motivated. I think the best way to do it is the combination of the two, where you're using money and showing them how it is a tool in life, but kind of like what you were saying, you got to do these other things too. Going back to that 50 Cent, if you got a kid, that's not working, that's just kind of bumming out and just being a bum and living off you, and then demanding more and more and more. That seems like that's a problem.
Yeah. And that's really, I would say, again, up to the kind of the parent, and it would be your job to be honest. We talk about honesty, like transparency, communication, right? We've brought up all those subjects many times in other podcasts too. And it's, being honest with yourself, like about spend and lifestyle, all these things. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like being honest with yourself of whether or not you feel you did a good job with the kid, or you failed, or, it's almost like at that point, it's just, okay, well, we're here where we are now. Do you feel that this money is helping, or is it hurting? And you got to be honest as the parent to figure out if that's the case. And that will at least hopefully start to guide you in this decision. But, to take one step back, at the end of the day, we're talking about a situation where you really have to be in a financial position to be able to even consider this, right?
You got to have extra money, extra cash flow.
Some parents out there, a lot of parents out there, it might not even be an option, right? It's just they're making ends meet by just getting the children or the child through high school, college, and they just don't. It's not even really a question. It's not possible. So the child has to, right? They have to go out on their own. They have to do those things, because you're in a position now where you have to basically kind of back end load your retirement or your financial health, because the majority of your life, all the extra money, all the extra stuff was raising the kids. So there's always that piece of it too, right? We're talking about a situation where you have to have extra money.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to stop and kind of, think about an example. I've met multiple people out there, that are just such loving parents. They love their kids so much, that they continue to help, but then yet they're hurting themselves. They don't have the ability to really help. They want to help, and they're taking from their own future, to put these kids in a better position. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
You got to really look at, what's going on. The first thing you want to do, as a parent, is you want to raise your kids and, and hopefully they're healthy and happy and get them out of the house. That's ideal. But you got to also think you're going to at one point hopefully want to retire, stop working, stop getting that paycheck. Are you going to have enough money to do the things that you want to do in life? I've seen a lot of people that kind of peel money away from themselves, giving it to the kids, and hopefully, it works out in the long run. But me personally, I would never, jeopardize my future. I'd want to get my kids to a place that I've done the things I'm supposed to as a parent, but I wouldn't jeopardize my future, to keep bailing someone out.
Yeah, and it's that's where it goes back to, it's not a like a right or wrong answer. Even something like that, if you're wanting and willing to like dip into potentially your retirement or extending your working career, whatever way you look at it, to be able to continue to help kids like pass college if they need it, to get their feet, whatever it is, there's nothing wrong with that, right? You can certainly do that, and again, it's up to you, but it's about, you have to look at that and say, okay, is this really going to impact my financials? How is it going to impact? Is it going to have a significant effect on my financial future, right? If you want to help a kid out with down payment on a house, or have them, basically live with you for a couple more years until they save up a bunch of money. Hopefully they're saving money, in that time so that they can go do it, right? It's just about being honest again and looking at it, and is it going to affect your financial future? And then you have to make a decision on that. And then that's where it goes back again to the second point is it actually helping, right? And that really depends on the kid, I think, at that point, of whether or not it's helping. There's definitely, success stories in terms of, and I would say a success story is just the kid getting off the payroll, right? Even if you had to help them for a year or two longer maybe than most or usual, but then they're doing the right things. The kids they got a job, they're saving money, they're showing the discipline, the motivation to do the right things, and they want to go out on their own. They want that independence. That's something that they're striving for. That's whether it's they make a bunch of money or they're super successful financially or whatever. That's not the point. It's just getting them to that place where they can take care of themselves and their own family. Yeah, self-sufficient. That's the success in this degree. So you have to be honest with yourself, is it really helping to get to that point? Or are they still just kind of, moseying around and just kind of gliding through, expecting something's going to happen for them? That's really, I think, where some of that maybe the entitlement or maybe the laziness, procrastination of is it really going to happen? It's not going to fall on your lap, right? So it's certainly a tough question. I would say, me speaking to myself about kind of my feel on this is kind of similar to Ryan's. Again, I don't have kids, but I do advise and plan for many people that do and are in these situations. And I do try to instill what I think I would do just based on my experience that I had as a kid and going through. I would like to think that I will continue, again, like Ryan said, to get them to a place where they can take the tools, use the tools, and become self-sufficient. And yes, if that required a little extra help, financially, I would certainly do that because that was something that I received. But there is a point where I believe that I would sit there and be like, listen, this isn't working, right? If they came to that point, and then there would have to be a moment where, it's like the definition of insanity, right? Where if you do the same thing over, okay, I'm helping out. A year goes by, 2 goes by, I do this, and nothing's changed, even after all the conversations, even after all the help. Hey, go do this, and there's all excuse after excuse after excuse, or
it gets better for a while, a year, and then you're proud and happy, and then it reverts back to before. There's
got to be a point where the cutoff happens. It's just it just has to happen, right? And again, there might be a situation where if you're in a super, super great financial situation where the help doesn't even impact you or matter really, then do it. And that's your prerogative. I mean, we can't, that's not really advice. That's just more of, that's your choice at that point. But for the majority of people where it will make a significant impact potentially on their retirement by continuing to do that. There's got to be like that make or break moment where where you say, listen,
at least have the hard conversation.
yeah, and see how that goes, right? So I mean that's really my stance on it, and you would be surprised, for people that are listening out there, you'd be surprised how much this gets brought up. Not necessarily from the sense of we can't do it anymore, or like some of that, it's basically at that cutoff point where we can't afford it. It's not really that. It's just, should we afford it? It's more of that, and that's more of the conceptual type question. And I think it does have to do, I mean, generations are always changing. Every generation's different. There's always this pros and cons to every generation. But we are seeing, I mean, there is data out there I don't have on hand to cite it or source it, but there is data out there showing that children are naturally staying at home longer. They're staying on the payroll longer. Well, yes, you could say maybe people's retirements are getting extended. People are living longer lives. Maybe that's just a factor of all of that. But
it can be comfortable when you have no rent, mommy and daddy's credit card, free car. If everything's taken care of, I mean that seems like that'd be very comfortable.
It would be.
How long can you do that for?
It all depends on the finance.
Give me some meatloaf.
Yeah. It all depends on the financial situation and what the mentality and philosophy of the parents, I guess, at that point, right?
I think if you look at the flip side, because I think, we do have these conversations with people, but I think the conversations we probably have more with our clients are, when we're doing the financial planning, everything's looking really good. They've saved exactly how they should. They're going to have a lot of money left over. I think flipping the script, and it's like, we're encouraging people to, help their kids, create experiences with their kids, and not just wait all the way to the end when they die to give all the money down to the kids to start, doing things now with them.
Definitely.
So let's give some examples of what that might look like.
Yeah, and I would say there's actually like a two-pronged to that segue. The one would be kind of a little bit of what you mentioned, which is there's the giving. If you have the money and you're going to leave a legacy, a big inheritance, and maybe there is that extra money that necessarily you don't need from a lifestyle perspective, you've taken care of risk management, long-term care, other, all these factors, and you've analyzed it and you feel comfortable that there is extra, then there is that situation where maybe we're flipping the script and we're saying, well, listen, maybe you should be doing it, whether it's taking the family on a vacation or helping out with a car or helping out education, other things. Maybe it is that, that flip. And I think there's actually another example that's kind of like the flip the script, which is we also have clients planning situations where the parents might be still be helping or not spending money, and they're still spending money on the kids even though they don't need it, and the kids are coming back to the parents and saying, "Mom, Dad, spend your money on yourself. Like we're job. We're good. We're very fortunate. We're very blessed and happy that you want to give us money and do things. We're very happy, but go spend it on yourselves. Go enjoy. You raised us. You worked your whole life. You're now retired. Like go do the things you want to do. Buy the house or do the big travel or do the things you want to do." And they're kind of flipping it back to the parents saying, "Please, like, enjoy it. We're okay. We're going to be saving. We're going to be working hard. You raised us, to do that. And we're going to be doing those things. We're going to be okay. So go spend your money." So there's kind of like that example of it too. And we have many people that are like that also. And again, maybe they come back to them and say, well, this is what we enjoy spending our money on, is
giving it
to you. And that's fine. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. It means you have a loving family and you care a lot about it. But, those are kind of examples of those two things, I think. But a direct example of what you're talking about, I think would be like the vacation.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I know your family does that. And I think that's wonderful. Yeah. Having someone, if you're well off and you got a family and, you say, hey, instead of just going on vacation with me and my wife, I'm going to bring, my adult children and maybe even grandchildren or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it be, on a big trip. And when I say big trip, it doesn't have to be anywhere, exotic or anything, but just bringing the family together. They pay for the trip, bring everybody together and create those memories.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that's in my plans to do
Yeah.
because I think I find a lot of value in that, and spending the time creating those memories with friends, family, things like that. Maybe I even get lucky, or some of my friends get lucky, and I hook them up with the trip just because I want to do it. Maybe they can't afford it, and I just say,
Mm-hmm.
screw it, let's do it. I'll take care of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly nice. I think that's the easiest example, and definitely I agree with it because it's memorable. It's not like a material thing, going and buying them something, or you can always do other great things like funding a 529 plan for a grandkid, or stuff like that, or helping with paying a tuition bill for private school. Or, there's other things you can do, but I think the vacation is a great one if you're in that situation, to be able to bring the family, get everybody together. And again, whether it's just taking a trip, up north to Traverse City, for a week in the summer or something, and getting
A
an
big house.
Airbnb, Verbo, whatever, and doing that, or buying the plane tickets and everyone goes to Florida, California, Hawaii, whatever, doing all that. I mean, it's a memorable thing, and I promise you, for someone that has done it, they will remember it. It'll mean more long term than like an item, I think, and that's just my opinion. But you'll remember those trips, when it gets harder and harder to be able to do that. When you have grandkids, maybe the kids are working. You got to manage all the work schedules. Some people can get off, some people can't get off. Some people's schedules are more demanding than others. You have kids, they have this, they have sports, and then it just gets busier, and then it just gets even harder and harder. To get everybody there. So if you have the ability, you're in that fortunate situation to do all that, I think that's a good example of the flip side for sure.
Yeah, it just depends. As I get older, I like to be generous. I like to hook people up. And, I even think about, some of my friends. I'll go out to a bar, go out to dinner, and they're not even looking at the bill when it comes. They're not even reaching for their wallet because they know I'm going to pay it, which is fine. I enjoy doing it, but I think that goes back to the whole 50 Cent and Son thing. Is it's when it's expected, and then when they want more and more, that's that's I think kind of where the line draws. If people are appreciating and they're doing the right things and all that, I totally down for it. But when someone's expecting certain things, that's when you got to kind of look at it and be like, this doesn't feel good to me.
Yeah. It's certainly the case for sure, and I think that's a kind of a good concluding point. And it goes back to even what we said about it's a tough question. It's certainly a tough question, and there's no right or wrong answer. But it really just comes down to when is it enough? When is it too far? And when does it maybe hurt you financially if it does? And if it wouldn't hurt you financially, right, because the money you're helping with isn't hurting your situation, it goes to, is it helping, right? Is it actually helping your child succeed in whatever way you think success is? It could be many different things, but is it helping?
And I would say, is it aligned with your fundamental principles? If you believe in certain things and your giving and your helping is aligned with that, all good, keep doing it. But if you have certain principles and ways you grew up and the ways you live life a long time, and you're going against those principles to provide that help, you might want to look a little deeper at that also.
Yeah, I agree. And certainly a hot topic, and one we're going to continue to have as we get older ourselves, but also as clients, everybody else get older too, and one that we'll continue to talk about. So if you're in that situation, hopefully this helped a little bit, guide through maybe some of the decision-making process. And it's always going to be a tough question, but If you can be honest and get through to the transparency of what's actually going on, hopefully you can figure out whether or not it's helping or hurting, both the child and yourself financially. So we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us. Thanks. Ryan Kuss, President and Financial Planner. Alexander Dinzer, Managing Director and Financial Planner. Andrew Henricks, Financial Planner. Securities and advisory services offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA/SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Tax planning services offered by Horizon Advisors. Tax and accounting services provided by Horizon Advisors CPA. Cetera Advisor Networks does not provide tax nor accounting services. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a tax or legal advisor. Neither Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, nor any of its representatives may give legal or tax advice. The views stated in this podcast are not necessarily the opinion of Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities. Due to volatility within the markets, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable. However, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Investors cannot invest directly in indexes. The performance of any index is not indicative of the performance of any investment and does not take into account the effects of inflation and the fees and expenses associated with investing. A diversified portfolio does not assure a profit or protect against loss in a declining market. All investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will be successful. Distributions from traditional IRAs and employer-sponsored retirement plans are taxed as ordinary income and, if taken prior to reaching age 59.5, may be subject to an additional 10% IRS tax penalty. Converting from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. A Roth IRA offers tax-free withdrawals on taxable contributions. To qualify for the tax-free and penalty-free withdrawal of earnings, a Roth IRA must be in place for at least 5 tax years, and the distribution must take place after age 59.5 or due to death, disability, or a first-time home purchase, up to a $10,000 lifetime maximum. Depending on state law, Roth IRA distributions may be subject to state taxes. Investing in mutual funds is subject to risk and loss of principal. There is no assurance or certainty that any investment strategy will be successful in meeting its objectives. Exchange-traded fund and mutual funds are sold by prospectus only. Investors should consider the investment objectives, risks, and charges and expenses of the mutual fund or ETF carefully before investing. The prospectus contains this and other information about the product. Contact Alexander Dinzer at 5455 Corporate Drive, Suite 306, Troy, Michigan, 48098 or 248-265-6662 to obtain a prospectus, which should be read carefully before investing or sending money. Horizon Advisors, 5455 Corporate Drive, Suite 306, Michigan, 48098.